Tests and exams. Course examinations, which most people frown at, we tried to play with some of that, and we played with some prerequisite examinations, and we've been dealing with the engineering and training quite a bit. Now, again, some of you may have had wonderful success for some of these things. Some of these were a complete flop for us. Prerequisite examinations were horrible. The faculty didn't like it at all. The purpose was to test the students' knowledge after they've completed a course but coming into the next course. Makes sense? So if they took Thermo 1 already, at the beginning of Thermo 2, you test it. Faculty found this extremely threatening because they'd sit there and say, well, it's not my fault they didn't learn it, or, it's been quarters since that person's taken that, or, so it was a reflection on them rather than a reflection of the course before it. So we actually had to drop it. There was enough, it turned enough of the faculty so far off that they didn't want to continue anymore unless that was gotten rid of as part of the assessment program. I assume everyone knows about the EIT. How many of you use the EIT? Okay. Of those of you who use it, how many of you require it from all students? Okay, good. We'll talk about that in a minute. One of the problems we found is that although U.S. citizenship, most of my students are well, a great deal of them are not U.S. citizens. They're completely legal here, but they're not U.S. citizens. So it was actually a problem because they usually require a social security number. So they have to work on getting a taxpayer ID number before they take it. So we have to prep them for it way ahead of time. Okay? 3 years of coursework required at an ABET accredited institution. You guys know about the scope. Fundamentals is a great way to get that information. There's a morning test and there's an afternoon test. Many programs that say we're going to let the students decide who gets to take it. And we struggled with that because this self-selection process, your top students are the ones that feel the most prepared, of course, are going to go out there. So it's going to skew the results. Okay, but the problem we had, there were huge debates about that, is that if all the students attempt it, our passing rate will decrease. And that's public knowledge. That's on the webpage. So when you think about you're going to say, well, look, this institution's only requiring their top. They look like they're shining. Are they going to look like a more prestigious or better functioning university? But we actually felt that it was more worthwhile to risk the reputation and actually get concrete feedback. Okay. Now, how do we make it required? They won't attempt it without motivation. We decided to make it required during the capstone course. And the other thing was, how do we make the students take it seriously? It's one thing to send them out there but if they're not even going to try, or they just sleep through it, or they party the night before and have major hangovers, they're not going to do as well. So what we decided to do was reimburse all those people who passed it. Okay? So, and I don't know how much it is in other states, but in California it's $100. An exam right now. So that's we're already making them pay that, and they have the chance of getting that back. They seem to take it more seriously. Okay? Then became the ones that weren't taking it seriously, and we actually, the timing on this, I'll go over this really quickly, but it turns out the timing there's 2 times it's offered, at least in California. You could take it, and we wanted to do it during the capstone course, and if you look here, they could take it towards the beginning of winter quarter, or they apply for it in the beginning of winter quarter, they take it during spring quarter, they graduate, and then the EIT results are out. Okay, and it was really hard to get them to come back to campus and turn those in, and so, because we wanted it for data, and especially if you failed the exam, the last thing you want to do is bring it back in and show us that sort of thing. Now, the state does publish, which is interesting, the state does publish results on the exam, so you should be able to get it through that way, but we found that many of our students evidently don't fill in bubbles right, even in marking their own university. Or they don't really know what their program is, because they'll come across and we'll get programs coming back to us that we had no idea that we had. So it's better if they actually just turn in the piece of paper and get it to us. So to solve this, what we actually did was we forced them to sign up during the summer. And it's heartbreaking. Everybody has an excuse why they didn't get in, why they didn't sign up for it. But when we post it everywhere and it's supposed to be known, you have to have that before we allow you to enroll in senior design. They now take it in October and they have the results midwinter. And if they don't provide the results by midwinter or at the end of winter, they do not have access to the spring quarter senior design. So, okay, pass fail, which is wonderful, but unfortunately, if you pass it, they don't give you any scores on it. Okay, but if they fail it, then we know what we can do, we know what we can correct. The other big debate we went through is, do you do a review course, or do you provide some kind of review course for them? The argument for it is, of course, the student's going to do better. Maybe they can't review on their own and that sort of thing. The argument against it is, well, then you're just going to be assessing the review course. You're not really assessing the program. And so we actually voted not to have a review course for it. Capstone experience, good opportunity to basically, at the end of, we use our capstone experience to do a lot of assessment because they're tired of us, but they're also hungry to finish the program. So we can put unusual demands on them. Any survey that goes in there, we can say, you get it back to us, or you're not going to continue with this program, and they see the end of the tunnel and off they go. We also use it, well, we get to use the senior survey, we get it to get a writing example, and of course at the end they produce a oral presentation in front of industry, faculty, alumni, and all that sort of thing. Raise your hand if you use a capstone course to assess design. Oral communication, yeah, very common. Teamwork, so it's very popular. Some of our sample results, but not going to go into it because I don't want to talk about specifics there. Analysis. We love to use a scattergram representation and analysis where we have both a ranking of the importance of a particular outcome and the importance of a particular outcome and the student performance on a particular outcome. Now, what the importance is actually, it's a focus that we put on it in our curriculum. In other words, if we feel something that has a high importance, we add a lot of hours of that particular topic. If it has a low importance to it, then we add very few hours of a particular topic, and student performance is obvious. They'll score low or high depending on how well they do. And so what that means is that if you're up in this, if we're focusing a lot on a topic and the student performs well, that's good, that makes sense. A lot of input from us, a lot of good performance from them, we're happy. If they score well and we didn't put any focus on it, then that's a nice outcome, but it's not intentional. We haven't put any emphasis on it, but they're still doing well. If we are not putting any emphasis and they score poorly, well, that's our fault. If we're putting a lot of emphasis on something and the student is still performing poorly, then that should probably be the area that we want to focus on to do better. Here's some sample results. I'm not showing you what outcomes we did well or poorly on, but you can see that we do get a nice scatter in here. Very few things actually fall down to where we are not putting a lot of focus on. The goal always here is to draw a line. Whoops, it's coming up later. Some of them are engineering and training metrics. Some of them are just, it's a combination of all of our outcomes. Okay, good. Then going back to this for a minute, this is sample survey results, and I thought I had another slide, it's probably coming up here, but what we do is we generally sit there and stare, okay, we're doing poorly, we're going to kind of draw an arbitrary bar, pick those outcomes, and attack those two for this year, try to raise those up. Hopefully they'll go up. The next year we'll draw another bar, maybe new ones have come down, maybe new ones have gone up, but we'll address them in that order.